Hello, thanks for joining The Living Room, Season 1, Episode 4, where we discuss topics with real people. We have real conversations, and we would like to know people's honest opinions and what they really feel and what they really have to say about things going on. If you like anything that we're talking about or anything that you want to comment on, you can also send your messages or comments to our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter page. That's a lot of dang companies. And you can always send your responses down there, and we will also be willing to respond back to you as well. Or in a way, you can also send us your video clip if you would like to be a part of the show and you also want to be a co-host. Just make sure to go to thelivingroomtvshow.com and we'll go ahead and get your audition tape. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing pretty much self-hate in your own community. This is something that is really big, and it's not just self-hate in your own community, it's also hate in other people's, of other races. So we want to know how people really feel about things, and so I'm going to let one of the co-hosts begin the topic with this discussion.
I guess I'll start on this one. I can speak from personal experience, and I feel that I've encountered actually other people that that kind of felt the same way or still feel the same way. When I was younger, I did not like that I was brown, and I think that it kind of stemmed from seeing lighter people on TV and how they were portrayed to be beautiful and whatnot. And I always wanted to be lighter. And even I remember in middle school that I would wear long sleeves so I wouldn't get darker. And as I grew out of that, I appreciated being brown. And ironically, my skin got lighter as I grew older. But I can show you a picture. I was really darker than I am now. But all that to say is that, the hate within our community, or we tend to discriminate other people because of the skin color or their background or whatnot. I think that mentality starts from what we see in the media, and I think that should change.
I agree.
That's so interesting. I think this topic, I've never really talked about it, and I don't know how I feel talking about it, but I'm obviously Hispanic, but I'm very light-skinned, right? And well, right now my hair is quasi.
Oh, so you're one of those white Latinos, is what they call it.
And so, so like I was discriminated the opposite. I went to a school that was predominantly brown and black, and my friends, right, would discriminate against me because they said I was too white, and then they would say all these things. And so I was very ashamed of the color of my skin, that I wanted to be dark because I wanted to fit in. And I would tell people, no, we're the same. So obviously, I'm older now, but I think, for my children and other children that I see, it's more the narrative that we're giving to them, right? Because we were all kids. I mean, I don't think that they meant any harm, but I do know the impact that it had on me, and the sense and the feeling that I got from it, that I didn't feel like I was a part of them, where, I mean, I'm very much, obviously, we're all in the same boat, right? But just because of the color of my skin, I was discriminated in the opposite way, so.
You know what gets me about that is that, because growing up in Kansas, Kansas has a huge issue with that. It's very big, the light skin versus the dark skin. That is huge out there. And it's not just Kansas, it's Missouri, it's Iowa, Nebraska. And you do see, even at the workplace, you see that a lot of lighter skinned people who are black, get better opportunities. And then you see some of the people that are black, dark skinned, it's this term we call Oreo in the black community. They're black on the outside but white on the inside, and it's the truth.
Whitewash, basically.
Yes, and what happens is, we see a lot of them. They go into the workplaces and things of that nature, and they act like they're not proud to be black. It's like they always tell them to say about their own people. So then you see white folks and at work, they're like, oh, well, you guys are he's saying this stuff, so it must be true. I'm just like, just because that guy hate himself, and it's usually the darkest people. I mean, they're like crispy black that hates themselves. I'm just like,
Perfect.
yeah, for purple. And I'm like, just like for what? Like, and we have, it's a lot of terms in our community. Uncle Tom, Sambo. We have a lot of the terms that we call our own in our community, and it's just the way it is. But that I think that light skin versus dark skin stuff, that stuff got to go, because I'm just like, at the end of the day, y'all still black. And I said, let me tell you something. I know some white folks in Kansas, and they'll tell black people about themselves. I remember there was, and not to go too drawn out into this, but I remember that there was this Hispanic dude. We used to hang out in our group. We used to all go to the bars and everything. And so we had this white man. He wasn't racist. It was what it was. But races out there are very different. They'll get along with you and be cordial with you until you piss them off. So if you ain't pissed them off, they're cool with you. You ain't gonna hear the N word or anything like that. But when you piss them off, or they get agitated with you, they'll tell you how they really feel about you. And that's one thing I can respect about people out there in the Midwest, especially white folks, because they'll tell you how they really feel about you when you agitate them. And it was this Hispanic guy. He kept saying, "Oh, well, I'm not involved in that. I'm a white Latino. Oh, that's not me. I'm a white Latino." And he said, "Let me tell you something." He said, and this was what, 3 years ago. He said, "I don't care if you're from Puerto Rico, Belize, Mexico, Spain, whatever you want to call it. If you speak Spanish and Trump says that you're coming over here to our country to take our jobs, that's what you are, as a goddamn Hispanic, and I will have you deported just like any of those other people are deported. So if you're sitting here trying to separate yourself from the Mexicans, you're just the same because you speak Spanish." And the room got silent. And I'm like, it took a white man to tell you that, you to hear it.
But
Right after that conversation, right after that conversation, he was different towards the minorities in the group. He started talking to us and stuff. I'm like, you mean to tell me a white person has to tell you about yourself for you to understand what you really are? And that just bothers me. They don't believe in that term. They only believe in that white Latino term, or that you're mixed black and white, whatever that is, until you piss them off. When you piss them off, everything changes.
here's another perspective, though, Chris, that I want you to look at from the, light skin, black thing, dark skin. It's a real thing. It runs deeper. Like when you're like dark skin, like what you're saying, to me, I've experienced that I'm not dark skin, and I get through things differently. The police don't mess with me as much as they'll mess with like my brother who's more dark skinned. If I go into a store, they don't watch me like they watch, somebody who's really dark. So growing up, having to deal with that, it kind of builds this, even though people are joking when they say it.
Subconsciously.
Yeah, it builds this resentment type of thing. You know what I mean? You really got it easier than me. And then you can take it a step further, like black people and white people. You know how we say the same thing to like white people, like, well, you don't got to work as hard as, you know what I'm saying? I can do that. So I'm with you. It needs to go away, but I also see it from the deeper rooted issue, you know what I mean, that they have to deal with personally.
And that's something that we have to teach our kids if we decide to have children, and and their grandchildren, like calling your like for black people the N-word to your own kids, come over here and or stuff like that. Or for ourselves in my Latino community, calling someone Maria just because they're darker, and what we use that as someone that it's a Maria. We just call everyone Maria if you're a housekeeper or that's if you're a housekeeper or stuff like that. Like if you're dark skinned or short, you know what I mean? Everyone's a Maria here. And so like those are the little things and then you insult your kids and they kind of carry that with them. So when they do see someone else that may fit that description that you embedded in their head, now that's when they feel it's okay to discriminate them, or because they feel a certain way, they want to make other people feel that same way.
Mm.
But I think it's also like stepping in when we see it from other people, like even our friends, right? Like I feel like sometimes I've heard things that I'm like, that's not really funny. That's not very nice. And that's actually rooted in something more than just a joke, right? Because I think people also try to use humor, and it's just, we're getting to the point where it's coming from somewhere that's like true in some cases, not always. Mm-hmm. But I think that we need to start inputting it, like kind of making it known and kind of policing people lightly, even in just our own little circle, because you know, or when we hear children, and just kind of stepping in, because it's not okay if we hear it and we don't do anything about it, because that just kind of reinforces the negative behavior, I think.
It does.
So
I want y'all opinion on something. I'm gonna give y'all a small story about like anytime y'all like dealt with racism. You know how somebody might be like, yeah, you nigger or something like that, and then maybe for Hispanic people, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you said, Maria or another term.
Well, beaner. We call each other beaners, right?
Beaters.
Yeah, like a bean, because we love beans, so we call each other beaners.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Okay.
I never understood that term wetback. What the hell is that? I don't get it. What is
Well,
that?
when you migrate to this country, me as being an immigrant, you have to go through the desert. So the wetback is that you sweat, or you go through the river, or whatever, because you have to get here.
Yeah.
So you're a wetback because of your sweat.
Well, then that's okay. We'll keep that one in. So basically, when I was younger, I grew up in an all-black neighborhood.
Interesting.
Like the only white person I ever seen was on TV or my my PE coach. That's the only white person in Decatur at the time. And they used to get into a lot of fights, and my family moved to a whiter area of Atlanta, Gwinnett. You know what I'm saying? So midlife, and that was my first impression ever seeing so many white people. You know what I mean? It was almost like a flip. And I had this one white friend in my neighborhood who had like this Mustang. And what happened was one day I was driving home, and it's at nighttime, and I seen the Mustang. So I'm following it. Now I'm playing with him. You know what I mean? Like I'm like going where he's going, making the turns. And I'm thinking that this is my friend. So he turned it to my neighborhood. I'm like, oh, this definitely got to be Bo. So when we finally get to the red light, the car door opens up. Boom. It's an older white man. And he's coming to my car. I'm like, damn, this mother, he probably scared as shit. You know what I mean? He probably think he comes, so I go down the window. He comes to my car. He's upset. Hell, you follow me. Da, 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 da. You know, me being young, you know, we use the word nigga. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it came out just a regular. I was like, man, nigga, you better get from my car. He's like, yeah, that's right. You nigger. And at the moment when he said it, this is my first time I ever experienced somebody calling me that. It really didn't bother me. You know, like in my mind, like it didn't affect me. But I had this thing, Chris, where I was like, should I defend this? You know what I mean? Like yeah, I'm supposed to, like, because I really don't feel like you hurt me, but I think because you said that, I have to like lash back out to you. And I wonder, have y'all ever been in a situation where somebody has said one of those derogatory words to you, and for the first, you're probably like, that didn't feel like what, you know, TV, like, you know what I'm saying, makes it feel like what I'm supposed to feel hurt or anything like that. Has that ever happened to y'all?
I have actually. It was interesting when there was two instances where when I was younger and I had just migrated to this country, I went to school in Arizona. And interestingly enough, the kid who called me a wetback, and I didn't even know what that term meant at that time, was half white, half black. And later, like years later, I came in, I learned that term, and then I realized that that's what they had called me, but it didn't bother me because I didn't know. And then in other times I've been called a beaner, and I was like, okay, like that's, well, I guess that's what I am. I like beans. Like I don't know what else to say. Like, then I just brush it off. So I just feel like if you take it to the heart and you make it a big deal, you give other people power.
And I felt that way too. Yeah.
So this is so what we're gonna do is be talking about Facebook. I want to see what y'all thought about Facebook. I kind of like their layout here to the left side because this looks very easy to look at. But for the most part, it's pretty much standard. I'm used to seeing this on the mobile app. On here, it's very different. So I want to see what you guys thought about that.
I really only use it on my phone. I never log in on my computer.
Yeah. I think the phone it looks like it's more intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to really find where you're going to see your story or where you're going to post something or whatever your feed gives you. I personally don't care much about Facebook. I only, go there just to kind of catch the news or just, see something funny. But with that being said, a lot of people go in there to read news, and I think that is a platform that really needs to improve the way that they deliver news, and then make sure that things are being fact checked. But also sometimes things slip through Facebook, and they tend to go back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we did this. We didn't know that was happening." When in reality, like they have their check and balances, and I feel like the owner of Facebook should take more accountability for his platform.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Like the whole selling of information, that's always been an issue to me, especially when they can sell your personal information to these foreign countries and you don't collect any money. Now, it's one thing if you're going to do that and they're going to make legislations that allow it, the people who are getting the information stole should get some type of piece of currency that you're making money off of.
Mhm.
But that's a big issue to me, and I can't wait till, somehow that changes. As far as Facebook, I don't even have Facebook anymore. I got rid of it because there was really no purpose. To me, like Facebook is at a point where unless you're like a storefront and you're selling items, it's the best for marketing. You know what I mean? You can't beat that. Even with this show, it's important to have a Facebook channel because once you promote it, it's the easiest click share. You know what I mean? Like if you're on Instagram, you got a snapshot, you got to put in your story. People don't really care, but you can just hit the share button. It could reach 10 million people by the time you wake up, and you don't. So that's the benefit I see in Facebook.
I see. Well, let's end our discussion today. What we're going to do is my turn to choose a photo or video of the day. And so I am going to be sharing this photo with you guys that was found on Facebook, since we're also a social media platform. And on this picture, is at the top, you see it says conservatives just obey authority. And then conservatives just obey authority in the second picture. And then on the third picture, it says conservatives, it affects me now. So now I don't believe in obeying authority. And if you see this one is of a Black man being harassed by an officer. And then you see these are Latinos in cages. But then when it comes to a different group of people, which is white folks, it changes into something different. And now and this is, I think, if I was correct, in Michigan, they had pulled guns out not too long ago. And they have brought those guns to the Michigan state. And so she was, it was all about trying to ban this stay-at-home policy that's going on right now. So it's kind of funny how when it comes to certain groups of people, that when it affects them, now we have to change all of our laws. Things that make sense.
Or not even change the laws, and also allowing guns in front of the state capitol just because they're legal in the state. But where if it was another group of people, it would be considered as terrorism.
Go ahead and say it. Not another group of people. If it was a Latino
ain't
or
no
Black,
way in the
it'd be
hell.
different.
Ain't no way in the hell any Black people could have went in there with assault rifles on their chest like they did. I was looking for this. It's funny that you pulled this up. This is what I was looking for last episode, because that's exactly what I was looking for. The militia literally walked in with AK-47s and choppers during the count. Like, where are they allowed at? No Black or brown person could have ever walked in there. They would have been shot.
Oh, it would have been beyond shot. They would have been martial law. So, and you just look at some of the comments from these people. This is from Lonnie Walker Jr. He said, sadly, these folks will say that they were following the authority of one. And then Corey C. Shook said, facts. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is the purpose of their protest. Brandon, which I love when people send clips like this. These are like clip arts. He said, don't mind me. I'm just here to see who defends one over the other. You know which one I'm talking about. So, it just goes to show you that we, in this country, it seemed like everybody, including a certain group of people, have to be affected by it for us to have change. And that's one thing that's why I want to share this photo, because this has been going viral on Facebook lately, and it's just the truth. It's just like at the end of the day, we just have this country has a problem with only certain groups of people, not everybody, and that's the problem. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and end this show today. I will see you guys on our final episode, which is episode 5 of season 1, and I will talk to you guys soon. Hi, thanks for watching The Living Room. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook pages. In addition to that, if you feel like you would like to be a co-host on our show, please make sure to submit your audition tape to thelivingroomtvshow.com, or you can also submit it on one of our social media pages. In addition to that, make sure to submit your audition tape and the reason why you would like to be on our show. We'll see you next episode. Have a good day. This episode of The Living Room is sponsored by Juiced Up, Whey Smoothies on the Go. Juiced Up is a California-based company that offers smoothies and acai bowls on the go. The company accepts deliveries, and you can place your order by going to their Instagram page at JuicedUpAF, or for more information regarding the products, you can go to their website at www.juicedupaf.com.